Okay, thank you very much. So perhaps before we start, I would like to ask one question. So who in the audience already has a social slots app out there? Okay. So who is thinking about having one? Oh, okay, nobody. All right. So in case you're still, so say, thinking about having one, I've put together, so it doesn't flip over to the next slide. Hold on. So, all right. So this is what we're going to talk about. Oh, too much. This is what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, I've collected a couple of numbers, kind of like to explain what the fuss is all about with social slots. Then I'm going to talk about whether this is a good moment to actually go into social slots. It seems like a red ocean. Is that the case? Yes or not? And last, if you want to go into it, what we think that you should do. So starting off, why does it matter? So these are some of the numbers I picked from other presentations. They predict that free-to-play casino revenues will be huge. They will be huge in 2015. They're already quite nice right now, but you can see that it's actually going up by quite a lot over the next couple of years. The year-to-year growth also seems to be rather good. For free-to-play casino, something like 20%. For slots, it actually is predicted to be even more than 50%. So it seems like there's still a lot of room to grow. Another thing, if you are into free-to-play casino, it still seems like Facebook is one of the biggest drivers for that. So if this is something that you want to get into, you shouldn't completely neglect Facebook. It is still very big. And obviously there's always like the bonus that perhaps in the future there will be legislation changes and there will be, so say, casino and real money gambling going together. But even without it, it seems like there's a good road ahead. Some of the numbers to remember, you probably heard a lot of those numbers today. They vary a little bit, but overall what you're looking at in social casino are nice ARPUs and nice RPPUs, yeah? So even if they vary a little bit from company to company, from market to market, these are really, really good numbers that are being achieved. So let's say you like all those numbers and you actually want to get into this market. What is it that you will be seeing in this market? Here I took from Metrics Monk, it's a bit like app data, a look at the landscape in casino slots. And what you will see is that actually there are a lot of companies out there. They all seem to still be, so say, fairly close to each other, and most of these companies are actually pure play. They basically do social casino and they don't do anything else. So, crowded space. So you will have very high CPIs. If you want to acquire users in the space, you are battling against some companies with very big pockets. So, very crowded. A lot of these companies are backed by very rich powerhouses from the casino space. They do focus entirely on social casinos, so they will be optimizing the hell out of their applications. They are very good at marketing. They also have money to spend on marketing. So you are up against a lot of big guys. But then again, if you think back, so say in other gaming sectors, if you remember, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, would you have thought that somebody would beat Bejeweled to the match 3 throne? Probably not, but then King and others did it very well. So that's kind of like, if you look at that space, we think there's still very little innovation going on in the social slot space. Why do we think that? So this is kind of like just some screenshots from real casinos, and you will see that most of those machines, they at least look different, yeah, so different mechanisms going on. But if you look at social slots on Facebook, for example, or on phones, they all look very much the same. You tend to have 7 reels, you have a spin button, and perhaps 2 or 3 other buttons that you can press, but basically that's it. So in terms of innovation, I think there's still a lot of things that can happen there. Just as an example, I've picked also a look at the poker side, because that is a little bit different. And here you can see that there's one company that's kind of like reigning supreme, which is Zynga. And they've been doing that for a long time. And you can see all the other poker apps, they're really, really far away from what Zynga is having. So why do I think that is the case? What is still the same in this market is CPI is high, but Zynga has been around for a long time, and I think one of the main reasons why Zynga is still so dominant in the poker place is because they have managed to build some great social features around their poker game. Yeah. So poker games, there are a lot of them out there, but a lot of them focus on, so say, getting the poker right, and they don't really have the opportunity to look at the social features around that. Obviously, Zynga is also good at CRM. They do a lot of A/B testing. And they really understand their users. They very data-driven. And the other thing, Zynga is not a pure-play company. So that means I think they are getting a lot of users, and have been over the last couple of years, a lot of fresh users that they acquire through different games, through a Farmville or through other games that they have out there, and they manage to bring some of those users into, for example, their poker game. Probably not all of them, yeah, but they're constantly getting fresh users. Another thing is that they obviously can also test a lot of the social features in the other games. And if they see, okay, this is something that works, this is something that we might want to put into our poker, they bring it in there. Like leaderboards and gifting and all that, they probably test it in other areas. And another thing that they do, they constantly evolve the game, yeah? Zynga Poker has been around for ages. I think it's one of the first games that Zynga had developed, and it's still out there. It basically hasn't lost any of its monthly active user base, so it's still going rather strong. So that's why I think in this space, yes, it looks like a red ocean, but there's still a lot of innovation that can come, and I think that's kind of like what we were looking at. I think another thing that you need, if you want to get into this market, you need great social features. Just getting a slot product out there or something, it will not grow by itself, and then you're basically stuck with having to acquire all the users yourself. You have to know your users, you have to understand them, you have to test the market and your users, and I think, at least for us, I think you need to have a network of other games. Yeah? It will definitely come in handy if you want to bring the first users into your game. So, then, let's just say you want to get into this market. This is basically the point where we were last year. We had a couple of very successful games on Facebook, and we decided we wanted to go into the casino space as well. So here are the things that we think we learned through this journey, and we're going to share them with you. So basically, first of all, the core game. You have to, if you want to go into slots, for example, you have to understand the basics of slots. Yes? So this is something that you should start with. You have to understand how does it work, how does the math work, and then obviously how do the players take? Why do they play? How often do they play? What gets them hooked? And so on. Why do they stop? And why do they continue? Those are the first questions you should ask yourself. Before you haven't solved those questions, I think you shouldn't start innovating, yeah? Because if you start innovating around a core product that is not working, probably your innovation will be lost. Then continue by optimizing the mechanisms, continue to optimize design, put additional features on top of that, and then, so to say, gradually move from there on. And try to find something that you think is unique for your game. We have a couple of ideas in our pipeline that we're going to launch over the next couple of months, so very excited about that. But you have to somehow stick out, yeah? Because if you're just like everybody else, then you probably will not be able to manage to get into this market. Last but not least, you should play it. Even if perhaps for you the idea of playing slots and just hitting a spin button all the time might seem a little bit, I don't know, weird, yeah? But you should play it a lot. You have to get a feeling for when do you feel bored? When do you feel excited? What gets you motivated to continue playing? So eat your own dog food. I think that's also very important in this area. Next, let's say you have sorted out, so say your core mechanisms and you think you have a good slot product, then, as I said early on, don't forget about Facebook. Try to get social features in there. Yeah? If every user that you have to acquire costs more than $1 or euro, that's going to be very expensive. And that money you probably will not have in the beginning. So try to get them through other mechanisms. Open Graph, shares, likes, requests, notifications. Yeah? Those are really, really great tools, and I encourage you to use them. And these are some learnings that we have from our other games where we use them a lot. Then, put them into your gameplay. Don't just say, okay, now spam your friends and then we will be very thankful if you do that. Try to integrate them into your gameplay so that they don't feel like they are forced onto you. Yeah? Try to come up with something like social bonus or something that makes people want to share your game. Obviously, then every company has some secret source, some things that they learned, how to do games, how to make them fun, because at the end of the day, we're not making some financial software, it's supposed to be fun. So whatever secret source you have in your company, try to use that and bring that into your slots product as well. This is one number that I want to throw out there. For us, for example, we get 70% of our users through unpaid channels. So basically, we are using a lot of the stuff that I mentioned early on, Open Graph, notifications, and so on. And that is why then, so say, your average CPI comes down a lot. And then you can also, so say, easier get into a market that is very crowded and where everybody is, so say, competing for the same ads on whatever platform you're using. So try to work with that. It will do miracles to your bottom line. Then, last but not least, obviously, you need to be tracking and analyzing your users. Yeah? Have basic tracking systems in place. If you don't want to buy them, build them yourself. Either way is fine, but you need to do that. You need to constantly look at your users and look at what they're doing. Then, see what is very specific for a game. If you buy a tracking solution off the market, they will probably not fit everything that you want to do, so then you have to do some of those things yourself and put them into the game. And then build your own tools and see how that works and what people do that. Make use of the information, yeah? A lot of companies that I see, they track a lot. They track a lot, but they don't do anything. They basically look at the Mao DAO and the stickiness, and that's basically what they do with it. Yeah, really deep, do deep dives. Yeah, look into every single level, every machine, every reel spin, and try to figure out what is actually happening there. And if you want to get the math right, for example, this number 500 million. This is basically the amount of spins that you would have to simulate to see if the reels that you have in place, whether they have the right payoff or not. So if you don't know how to do this, you should do that, because otherwise you really can't figure out what the return to the player is. So that means you need to build some different tools than you're probably used to, but this is very important, otherwise it will get very tricky to get return to player figured out, and then it might be boring. Yeah? It might be a fun game for the first couple of minutes, but then it gets really boring because there's not enough payout to the user. Yeah, and then if you have a great product, use cross-promotion. Use your network, hopefully you have one, to promote your games. Use virality, as I said early on. This, I think, should still be your biggest source of user acquisition. Marketing. Do marketing and support your own, so to say, viral and cross-promotion channels with marketing. Yeah? Be very selective about that. Don't try to spend it everywhere. Have the right tools in place so that you can also track your marketing, track all the viral channels. And then, so to say, yeah, so this is basically then the games that we have currently out there that are all doing very well, and we hope that Slots will be the fourth game to join that rank of successful hits from Mega Zebra.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Everybody knows everything they need to know about making slots. Here we go. Name, company, and question, please.
My name is Kjell Toon from Speel Games. Since your games are rolling out the coming months, can you share one example of what you do that will set your slot machines apart from others?
Yeah, so as I said, so some of the things that we're working on right now and that we're testing in a couple of markets are, so to say, special social features around the games, kind of like different ways of how to get people to, because the thing is, at the end of the day, slots is a solitary game, yeah, so basically you play it yourself. But a lot of our other games that I showed here, apart from Suburbia, but Mahjong and Solitaire as well. I mean, they are normally games that people sit at home and they play by themselves. What we have done with those two very successfully is build, so say, social mechanisms that will make people share and where it kind of like makes sense to cooperate. So we're trying to bring that into slots as well with things like a social bonus and so on. So that's one thing. The other thing is we think that always having 5 reels that all look the same and a spin button is also not the way to kind of like stick out. So this is also an area where we are going to try out a couple of new things and spice that one up a little bit.
Thank you.
Other questions? I'd be curious about your existing audience with Mahjong Trails and Solitaire Castle in terms of what you think your effectiveness in terms of cross-promotion from those titles into casino titles might be.
Yeah, so especially for slots, or perhaps then bingo later on, I think actually our the likelihood of cross-promoting them is very high. So all these games, they basically have 70% female users, right demographics, top-tier countries. So most of our users are from the US, Brazil is very big, UK, and so on. So from that point of view, I think the fit is quite good. Yeah, if we would be doing poker, I think it probably would be a little bit harder to cross-promote all of them over. But I think, so say kind of like the users we have at the moment, and if they then go to a game where they will recognize some of the mechanisms and some of the gameplay, I think it will work. And the tests that we're running right now in selective markets show that there it's actually working quite well. So we managed to get a lot of good users, users that we know have paid in our other games. We get them to try this game as well, and they seem to like it.
Other questions?
And we will be looking into Bitcoins.
And there we go. Well, that checks one box. And how do you find then monetization? I mean, Mahjong has historically been a gambling game of sorts.
Yeah.
And how have you found that from a monetization perspective as compared to other sort of social casino games?
So it's obviously the way we have approached Mahjong is less from a casino gambling point of view, more from a social game point of view. The monetization on Mahjong and even Solitaire are really, really good. I mean, the Mahjong has been out for 3 years. I mean, that game is highly profitable because we kind of like just iterated over time. I mean, these are basically, so to say, the cash cows. And probably 3 or 4 years ago, when we started with that, nobody would have thought that somebody can actually make money with games like that. But that was also before, I mean, King and others did similar games.
You were definitely pioneers in that regard. Any other questions? I guess we'll let you wrap up now. Thank you.